Selamat siang Bapak-Bapak, mohon izin untuk kita mulai acaranya. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the IAMKRI webinar series volume 16, Rethinking Capital Project Delivery, and I'm honored to be your host for today's event. Our distinguished guest, Chairman of IAMKRI, Professor Muhammad Abduh, representative of WIKA, Mr. Rian, Mr. Punjung Setiabrata, and Mr. Aminullah, members of Supervisory Board, members of Expert Board, member of Executive Board, Project Manager, who are our special invitees today, and our webinar participants joining us online from various. Allow me to extend a special welcome to our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Edward Abramowich, Senior Advisor, Capital Project Excellence to DSS and author of Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. It's truly an honor to have you with us today to share your invaluable knowledge and insight. We are excited to learn from your expertise and experience in the field. Before we begin, let me introduce IAMKRI, the Indonesian Professional Society in Lean Construction Management. IAMKRI was founded with a mission to innovate, share, and implement lean construction knowledge in Indonesia. As a professional association, IAMKRI aims to foster efficiency and quality of construction project through the lean construction approach. To officially open this event, I am pleased to invite Chairman of IAMKRI, Professor Muhammad Abduh, to deliver his opening speech. Please welcome Professor Muhammad Abduh.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Edward, okay. On behalf of IAMKRI, I would like to warmly welcome all participants of this webinar. We call it Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. It is a pleasure for me and so IAMKRI to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Edward Abramowich. Thank you, Edward. We had opportunity to meet Edward at IGLC 34 in Singapore, last month, and we also had a follow-up discussion meeting with him, and I think I have had a strong impression, on me that I think we need to learn from Edward. I believe this today topic highly relevant, to Indonesia and other developing countries, I think, where capital projects play a crucial role in shaping our future. As owners, policymakers, and project professionals, we all want our project to create meaningful outcomes, not just completed facilities. One of the key lessons from lean construction is that value must be clearly defined from the very beginning. When value is understood and aligned among stakeholders, we can deliver better results while reducing waste and inefficiency. This year, IAMKRI is making efforts to engage closely with project owners in both public and private sectors. We believe that maximizing value starts with the owner's perspective. This webinar is one of the first steps in that journey, and we hope it will inspire new ways of thinking about how projects can be better serve their intended purpose. So Edward, thank you for accepting our invitation and for being with us today. and we truly appreciate your willingness to share your experience and knowledge. And to all the participants of this webinar, thank you for joining us. I hope you find today's discussion insightful, practical, and thought-provoking. With that, I wish you all pleasant webinar. Thank you. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Professor Muhammad Abduh, for your inspiring word and for sharing IAMKRI vision for advancing lean construction in Indonesia. And now it's my pleasure to invite Senior Vice President of Transformation and IT Division of PT Wijaya Karya, Mr. Rian, to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Rian.
Izin, Prof. Izin Pak Bujung. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone, distinguished guests, colleagues, and participants. First of all, on behalf of PT Wijaya Karya Persero Tbk, I am pleased to welcome you to today's IAMKRI webinar. And also our sincere appreciation goes to IAMKRI, Prof. Abdu, and everyone who has made this event possible. And a special welcome to our distinguished speakers, Mr. Edward Abramowich, founder and principal of Straits Consulting Singapore with more than 30 years of international experience in lean and capital project delivery. We look forward to learn from your insights, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, projects are becoming more complex with tighter schedule, greater interface risk, rapid technological change, and increasing expectations to deliver value earlier. Completing a project within scope, schedule, and cost remains important, but it's no longer sufficient. We must also ask, how quickly can a project begin creating value while reducing execution risk? At WIKA, transformation is not only simply about adopting new technology. It's about improving how we plan, collaborate, make decisions, and execute projects. Lean construction, tech planning, BIM, integrated project controls, and AI must support better workflow, stronger governance, and more reliable project outcomes. I encourage everyone to participate actively and explore how these ideas can be applied to Indonesia's infrastructure, energy, industrial, and EPC projects. And with that, I am pleased to officially open the IAMKRI webinar, Rethinking Capital Project Delivery, Speed to Value, Lower Execution Risk. I wish you all an insightful and productive discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Rian, for your inspiring remarks and for sharing PT Wika vision for advancing lean construction in Indonesia. All right, before we start the main session, please, I want to remind you into our event, if you have any question, please type them in the chat box or use the raise hand feature for online participant after the presentation, during the presentation, and after the presentation. At the end of our session, we will selecting 2 lucky participants who have asked outstanding question to receive an exclusive IAMKRI merchandise. So for those of you who would like to follow along the webinar more easily, please note that you can activate the AI caption features. This can be found in the controls and the bottom right of your Zoom screen. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today's session. Mr. Edward Abramowich. Mr. Edward Abramowich is a senior advisor, Capital Project Excellence at DSS, and the author of Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. He has extensive experience in capital project delivery, operational excellence, and project performance throughout various industries. Throughout his career, he has helped organizations transform the way projects are planned, managed, and executed to achieve better outcome in terms of value, efficiency, and reliability. Today, he will deliver a session, Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. So in this session, participants will gain valuable insight into why traditional approaches in the project delivery often fail short, and how adopting a new mindset and practical strategy can improve project performance, enhance collaboration, reduce waste, and create greater value throughout the project lifecycle. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Edward Abramowich.
Selamat sore, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Professor Abdul, thank you. And thank you, IAMKRI, for the invitation and for making this happen. Ahmed, before we start, if I may, what you've built here matters. Your commitment to lean and lifting how Indonesia delivers its construction and capital projects through IAMKRI and through your work at ITV is exactly the kind of leadership that turns good ideas into a real movement. It's a privilege to be part of it, even for an afternoon. For those I haven't met, I'm Edward Abramowich. I founded Straits Consulting. I wrote a book called Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. I spend my time with energy majors, national oil companies, and large asset owners, helping them deliver their capital projects faster with less risk, using an outcome-driven AI approach. And here's why I'm genuinely glad to be with you today. Indonesia's biggest ambitions, energy security, new infrastructure, downstream growth, are at the heart capital project delivery challenges. The vision is rarely the problem. The path to the vision is. And the way we deliver these projects is changing faster than any point in our careers. So over the next hour, I will share how the shift works in practice, how we move from measuring progress by tasks completed to delivering real value in steps, how speed to value changes the economics and the risk of a project, and where AI and agentic AI is starting to change what's possible for owners. And none of this is theory. It's already happening at scale across industries. It's very relevant to what you're building here in Indonesia. So let's get into it. Think lean, act lean. Let's begin. Okay. So can you see my main screen? Okay, so
Yes, we can see.
very good. So let me just talk a little bit firstly about today's agenda. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening. We're entering a very different world now with technology, and for capital projects, it's a fantastic opportunity. Things are changing in such a way that we need to really rethink the old frameworks. The way that I've framed this in the book and discussions with energy majors, it's about an outcome-driven approach. Also, I've had the pleasure and honor of being in Indonesia a few times and speaking with people there. So I want to give a little bit of an Indonesian lens, talk a little bit about the enablers, AI, and how agentic AI will work in these projects. And then I hope to get lots of questions and hear from you what you want to learn most. So before we begin, look, I started in my lean journey very simply, actually on production lines in Japan. And I learned the very basic fundamentals of quality control, Kaizen, and flow in manufacturing in Japan. Then I moved outside of Japan into the aerospace and major companies, which were the first outside of Japan to adopt lean. So the term lean and lean manufacturing we used in aerospace. Then we moved into agility and lean construction and mega projects. In Shell, I helped develop the lean program globally for Shell. So Shell and other energy majors now across all their assets, upstream, downstream, lean is fundamental. If you're not using lean, it seems a little bit unusual just because there's so much opportunities to improve. At the moment, I'm focusing very much on, of course, lean construction and mega projects, and particularly about AI-driven approach. I advise energy majors. I'm also advising the top tier consulting firms. I've just published an article with BCG. If you want to check it out, the link is there. So that's a little bit about me. But let me talk about what's important, which is Indonesia. So what I've understood is that actually Indonesia's direction is to become energy independent within, I guess, 5 years. And so energy self-sufficiency, infrastructure and industry, and even a new national capital. And when you look at all of this ambition, all of this, what's really important for Indonesia, they're actually all about capital project delivery. So energy self-sufficiency might mean a variety of different projects, whether it be upstream, infill wells, whether it be new geothermal or whatever variety of projects. Energy self-sufficiency is just a variety of different projects. Of course, infrastructure and industry. So from mine to battery is an amazing ambition, but it's a capital project ambition, a new national capital. So what I think is really important for everyone here is that actually Indonesia is really relying on incredibly efficient and effective capital project delivery. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're entering a time after the last 30 years, capital projects are changing radically. And I've spent the last many years working with energy majors understand how can they accelerate capital project delivery. What's slowing them down? How can we get it better? And when I looked around at what is really leading cutting edge, if you look at companies like SpaceX, a SpaceX rocket is about as complex a project as you will ever get. SpaceX is iterating and developing new designs in months versus years, and it's all about AI, and it's all about getting faster outcomes to value. So this is what's really important. Is what's changing now is engineering is getting radically faster. The asset that I've just finished working on is an offshore gas asset, and we spent about 5 years in engineering from concept, feed and detailed engineering. I think that time is going to shrink from 5 years maybe to a year, perhaps. I'll be maybe a little bit, optimistic, but that's the magnitude of what's coming. So what does that mean for asset owners? So now if you own one of these massive assets, instead of years in engineering, you're now getting years of actually the asset operating. So for asset owners, you're getting earlier first production, higher MPV, better return on investments, and lower risks. For the engineering EPCs, it's moving to a new business model. So instead of bespoke one-off projects, your APCs are now moving to this model of becoming much more products and repeatable businesses. So the value shifts from billable hours, an EPC saying I'm going to bill you this many hours, to I will provide you these outcomes. It's a really fundamental shift. It's profound because we're moving from bespoke one-off mega projects towards something which is much faster and much more reliable. So I spent a great deal of time looking at mega projects and understanding what some of them have been very challenged, and that might be underestimating. If you look at the data, for example, from McKinsey and Fleisberg from Oxford, only 8.5% of projects actually meet their budget and schedule. Most mega projects overrun in costs and schedule. And what I realized was that what we're seeing is not a problem of the specific projects. It's not that this particular project had an issue, because when you look at 99% of projects missing their original schedule and cost benefits, which was what that's saying. Actually, it turns out that it's not about the project, it's about the delivery framework that projects are delivered, the engineering, the steps, how we go about engineering and constructing and deploying these projects. And the root cause, just in one simple slide, which covers a lot, but essentially, old project methodologies try to plan everything up front. So they start to say, we will plan for everything that's needed 5 years, 10 years from now. And they lock in scope early. And success is measured to, I created a plan, how do I follow the plan? But the world doesn't work that way. That things move too quickly now. So because we live in a complex world and things are not predictable. So I like to say that there's no plan that survives contact with reality. Change is actually inevitable, and we need frameworks which are able to adapt to change. It's not about effort or talent, it's the actual framework itself. And we need to rethink it. So the way I've framed this is kind of two different ways of thinking. One is traditional, which is start big and learn slow. I'll explain what learn slow means. So that might mean, okay, I'm going to build a massive refinery, or I'm going to build a massive asset, and I'm going to spend many, many years in engineering, then detailed engineering, and then at the end of that many years, and we're talking 5 to 10 years after construction, I'll build an asset, and everything will be, it'll be done. But the reality is that by the end of that time, things have changed. So I call that start big, learn slow. Whereas this outcome-driven approach, it's about start small and learn fast. So do something small, which you notice that the vision, the outcome, the end is the same. We still want to create a particular asset, but it's how you get there. It's the path that's very different. So in this outcome-driven approach, we ask ourselves, is there something we can do to create value quickly? Within a few months, 6 months, create value, then expand. So the end is the same, but the way you're getting there is very different. And just a side note that this traditional start big, learn slow, so try and plan and engineer everything up front, years in advance, has been consistently so poor that actually even the US State Department tried to make it illegal. So if you look at new defense contracts, they've actually tried to legalize that you need to follow a more of an outcome-driven approach versus this one and monolithic end and done. And the reason for the government intervening to actually make it into law was simply based on past performance. And I'll get more into about this outcome-driven approach. So actually, when I speak to executives and when I talk to energy majors, actually, everyone knows the problem. Everyone's aware that the problem is that projects will slip, things happen, and things get in the way. And what I like to say was, yes, the problem is known, but the solution is also known. And this outcome-driven iterative model, it isn't a theory. It's established actually in some of the world's leading organizations. So the problem is well documented. I mean, you know, decades of research from McKinsey, Freiberg, and more. But at the same time, the solution is also documented. Sort of an iterative, modular, outcome-driven, you know, using lean and agile is commonplace in aerospace to apply this. So when you look at technology, you look at leading aerospace, they're already applying these new or these proven capital project delivery methods, but it's kind of new to mega projects. And so what I hope to do today is sort of bring this proven discipline of capital projects, this new discipline, you know, about how it applies to capital projects. So what we're talking about today is not a leap of faith. It's proven, but it is new to major capital projects. I want to spend a bit of time talking a little bit about what I mean by outcomes. So the word outcomes is, well, when I say outcome, what I'm talking about is a result an asset was built to deliver. It's about the owner's value. So if I'm an owner of an asset, it's about, the outcome is about the value it's giving me. It's not about completion of work or completion of tasks. So if I have a refinery, for example, if the refinery is completed, but it's not producing, it's not a desired outcome, because a refinery that's sitting there idle, not producing, doesn't generate value. So outcomes are what actually matters for asset owners. First oil, first LNG, first power, first ore, first revenue, or first compute. What the outcome-driven approach is talking about is the progress is measured by outcomes achieved, not tasks completed. And let me then go a little bit into the term outcome. For those of you who've been through PMI training and when you hear the word outcome, often what you're thinking about is the standard definition. So outcomes of a management system. So the PMI, so like the PMO practical guide talks about outcomes as better prioritization, stronger governance, more accurate forecasting, higher improved stakeholder engagement. So the term outcome for the PMI means about how you manage the project. But actually, what we're talking about is far simpler, and it's much more in the asset owner's perspective. If I build a refinery that's meant to produce, for example, aluminium or petroleum, the outcome I want is how much aluminium or petroleum. It's that simple. So I'm talking about the outcomes that actually matter are first oil, first power, first revenue. So having the distinction is very important. So on one side, we're talking about how do we manage projects, and that's important. But at the same time, we need to ask ourselves, when can we actually deliver value from these projects? Both matter, and I'll explain to you. And this is getting to kind of the core of the thinking, and I'll give you some real examples in a moment. For a massive project, what we tend to do, the traditional way, is a great deal of planning. So you're front end loading, you're trying to predict early on, the business case. You're trying to predict the whatever is required. Then you go through design, procurement, construction, and operations. After this long period, like with the recent offshore gas platforms and the 3 deep water assets that I helped build recently, after many years, you end up with an asset. That's what I'm calling traditional, and you get value after the end when you've actually delivered the asset. But the outcome-driven approach is very different. It's saying, okay, I want to build an asset, a factory, a data center. Why can't you give me something which can generate me value in, I don't know, 6 months? And then after 6 months, if you can demonstrate you're generating value from a mine, a refinery. So let's say I want to build a refinery. Why can't you say, well, why don't you give me in 6 months small production from the refinery? And if that works, then we'll expand more and expand more. So what's driving is not compliance to a plan, but you're driving, show me what value you can generate, then we'll build. So the value accumulates in every step. So this is very normal in technology and aerospace industries. It's not in capital projects, which is really focus on plan everything up front and kind of then lock in everything and follow the plan. But let me give you some examples here. So what you see here on the left is an empty plot of land. So imagine that you have now been tasked with building a car factory, and this is a real example. So from you're building cars, what's the outcome that actually matters? The outcome is not building a factory, 100% complete construction. So the PMI measures would say, oh, you need to manage the 100% construction of the factory. You need to make sure you're checking progress, but that's not the approach taken here. The outcome that matters is sales of cars. So note that if you're an asset owner, sales of cars is what generates value. That's what's really important. So here they went from empty plot of land to selling the first car in 11 months. So think about that for a second. And these factories are huge, by the way. And look at all the complexity, the robots. From empty land to selling the first car in 11 months. What they were actually doing, they weren't planning, designing, building a factory, and then saying, okay, now you can use it to manufacture cars. They were actually planning, designing the factory and the car and constructing it and operating it all at the same time. So whilst the factory was being constructed, they were also using it for operations. And the reason is because their focus was on how does the asset generate value quickly. If you take that perspective, then what's happening is it's all about speed to value. So gigafactories, Tesla gigafactories, 11 months in Shanghai, went from empty plot of land to selling a first car. They did the same in Berlin in 18 months. They've done the same for every gigafactory. And when you look into this, what you'll discover is it's a very different engineering approach. Okay, so massive gigafactories in radical time. What else does an outcome-driven approach mean? Well, what about, let's say you're building spacecraft, starships, massive rockets. What's the outcome as an asset owner of these massive spacecraft? What's the outcome that matters? Well, in this case, it's simple. It's cost per kilogram. So it's all about how do I take 1 kilogram from Earth and put it into space? Notice it's nothing to do with about how much of the factory you've constructed, or have you completed this many audit checks. So what you see here in these pictures is actually the asset owners said, I want to launch things into space cheaply. Help me do it really, really quickly. So when you look at it, they're actually building first prototypes in tents. And of course, this is SpaceX. So they were building prototypes in tents. And then once they got to delivering more, they decided, okay, so maybe we can have a bigger factory. And then now, of course, it's Starship. And if you look at the results, SpaceX is looking actually about $10 or $20 per kilogram to launch into space. This is a fundamentally different engineering approach. It's saying, how do we deliver value really quickly? So as an asset owner, it's about, I want to do this. This is an asset which is important for the company or the country. Give me value quickly. And that's what they've done. So now, if you look at SpaceX, of course, they have a massive, almost production line of these rockets. It's incredible. But they didn't start saying, build me a massive factory first. They said, give me value first. And that's what I mean by this outcome-driven approach. So that's automotive, it's SpaceX. Okay, here's another plot of land. Empty plot of land to generating outcome compute. So these are data centers. This data center was of course, it's XAI, it's Colossus X2. So Colossus X2 was up and running in 122 days. And it is, I think it's the first actual gigawatt data center ever built. So what happened here is they asked the very simple question. They said, look, I need value from this asset, and value from the asset means compute online. Facility complete is kind of cool, it's nice, but no, I'd much rather value faster. So give me value faster. So what happened here is, of course, that, well, anyway, 122 days they had compute up and running, which is astonishing because most organizations would take years to do this. I say astonishing, but maybe that's not right. It is fundamentally a different engineering and thinking approach. It says, as an asset owner, we should ask, please generate me value quickly. And then once we see that value coming to us, we'll decide what to do next. We might expand, we might adjust. So it's the way I frame this is that if you look over time, in traditional project delivery, I plan something and then I predict many, many years. After this many years of engineering, this many years of construction, then I will get the value. But actually, over time, what happens is your risks increase. And then that's kind of expected. Unfortunately, you can't really predict the future. So if you're trying to predict what's going to happen in 5 years for your mega asset, you actually can't, because things just change too quickly. So this idea of build everything, design everything in one big asset and then deliver it is incredibly risky. Whereas an outcome-driven approach takes a different approach to say, well, look, give me something soon that generates value. And if it does actually generate value, and if it is working, then we'll seek to expand it. So that actually flips it. So risk actually decreases over time. So when I talk about speed to value, it's not about going faster. It's a different delivery model to say, show me how we can generate value quickly. And then once we see that, we'll decide to expand or maybe adjust. So for those of you looking at the mega projects, and particularly those of you that executives will be thinking in terms of economics, it changes the economic completely. So, you know, your cash flows are earlier payback, lower risks. And one example I have here is of a simple LNG asset. You know, if you, one LNG asset that I work with, when these assets are up and running, when they're in full production, they generate a huge amount of revenue, right? So this was a modest case of, say, $7.5 million per day, which is massive. And this particular project was 7 months delayed. So now you have $1.5 billion deferred because the project was delayed. So delays cost a great deal of money. So an outcome-driven approach would have changed this economics completely. Actually, you would have had returns far faster. So the outcome-driven approach changes the way we think about the economics. Now let's look about this then. So let's say that I'm interested in building from mine, refinery, to building battery materials, cells, creating battery packs and recycling. So this is a massive project. It doesn't get as complex as this, from mine to battery. And if you look at the projects, this complexity, there's many interfaces. It is incredibly complex. And if you build the entire system, that, you know, value comes from first battery cells. When you have this level of integration, you need to look at the risk curve. So what it means is your risks are increasing. If you try to then plan this all up front, you're almost ensured that one of these things won't work. So the mine might not be ready for the refinery, or the refinery is ready, the mine's not ready, or the refinery is ready, but there's no power, or the battery material. That's normal. And if you treat each of these as individual projects, you're almost guaranteed that there's going to be interface issues. But an outcome-driven approach would say, no, look, give me something simple, fast, that can generate value, and then we'll build from that. And these are really complex projects. So in this case, actually, what's interesting is Tesla has actually done the same. They've actually developed the same from mine to building batteries. And they took different areas to start generating value quickly, but it did take them many years to actually figure out to get this to run smoothly. But during that time, they were generating value, generating the outcomes. So in this, I keep using the term outcome. So when you have a massive asset that needs to deliver something, what you need to do is, I like to create something like what I call an outcome roadmap, which is saying, okay, so we know the outcome, we know what we want to deliver at the end, but kind of what are the steps in between? So what is the simplest, easiest thing that we can do first to deliver us value? So if you're running a refinery, say building aluminium or whatever, you might say, look, build me something really simple first, to produce a small amount of finished aluminium. So I can test that the refinery is working, that I can test that the power is there, that I can test the logistics is there, then we'll expand. And that becomes this kind of outcome roadmap. You start with what's minimal value, how do we then build? Here's an example, which, because I live in Singapore and I've lived here for many years, and I find this an amazing project. For those of you who know the Singapore geography, if you look at the map here, you'll see this kind of this area. So what Singapore is basically doing is they want to actually completely wall off this entire coast of Singapore. It's almost half the length of Singapore. They're going to kind of build off. They're calling it the Long Island Project. And the reason they're doing it is because of coastal protection, which means seawater rise, flood resilience, and then they're going to make the water like a freshwater reservoir. So here's the thing. So you can look at this project two different ways. You can look at this project and say, okay, so we need to build a wall. We need to build a housing area. Then we're going to create a reservoir, and then we're done. So that's a traditional kind of project, one and done. Or you could look at it from an outcome perspective, which is saying, maybe I can do parts of this first. So maybe I can do like a smaller part first, which helps with coastal protection or even the housing. Maybe I can build small parts first and progress. So I might build part of the housing or seawall first. So then I can use that area to generate, places for people to live and build the seawall. So this is a very complex project, and the point is if you look at it from an outcome perspective, you're saying a very simple question: what's the sequencing? How do I go about this project? Is there ways I can do something really quickly which generates value faster? So let me then ask a few questions, which I like to ask executives, and that is when you look at your mega project. So I put forward the premise that if you have a massive project, that in today's world, it's not possible to actually plan for everything up front. So if you look at traditional project delivery, it's saying lock in scope. You come up with assumptions early, you lock in scope, and then you fix that scope. And then over many years, you do more engineering. That is about governance and control. And what this is about adaptability. So here's a few questions that executives should be asking themselves, which is your delivery framework built to lock scope down or to adapt and change? So if you suddenly say, look, okay, so between a mine and a refinery, we assume there might be, a road or a conveyor belt. Well, one doesn't work, so we'll adjust. So if you lock in scope and then things change, you have to be able to adjust. And then the other, which is really important, is when you look at EPCs and how you execute these, does your contract with the EPCs, does it reduce risks or actually transfer it? So the lump sum kind of turnkey, you give it to an EPC, say, build me this refinery. It's very attractive. And if the EPC can do it very quickly, it looks great. But in reality, there's other things happening, right? And it rarely works out as planned. So if you recontract, if you rethink that to say, no, EPC, you must reduce my risks and provide value. And I'll explain more about that later. And for these massive, complex projects, like from mine to battery, who's actually accountable for the end-to-end outcome? I mean, you might have many, many small projects that are running that are meant to fit together, but the accountability is actually critical. And I think for the asset owners, ultimate accountability it's with the asset owner. How do you make sure that all these parts are working? And the other thing, and this is very common in defense industries, is as an asset owner, do you spend more money when tasks are completed or when actually value is generated? So in defense industry, it's very common to say, they will not say, build me this thing that will work and however many years away, and I'll pay you, or we'll pay you for it. It's give me something in 6 months that I can use that is useful. And if you do that, then I'll spend more money and we'll move to the next step. So as an asset owner, you are only spending money with EPCs and whoever is delivering your projects if they can demonstrate it's generating value. So it's a different approach to mega projects, which for asset owners is wonderful. I was going to have a bit of a working session here, and I know many of you people are involved in these mega projects, and so what I would usually ask if I did this type of session in your company or with your project teams, start to ask, okay, look at your current project and look at maybe past projects, and think about what would it take to be 50% faster and cheaper. What would it take to be really, really radically faster? And when I talk about speed, I'm not talking about skipping steps. I'm not talking about jumping, missing things. I'm talking about doing a great job far faster. And when you list those opportunities, you'll find that it's quite common. Things are waiting for approval, and those opportunities then become areas for you to focus on. How do you accelerate value? Let me move quickly now. I'll talk about AI because here's a really important thing: is when you look at traditional capital project delivery, which follows these phases from concept, engineering. Actually, AI is radically changing all of this now, and there's two key areas. So one is for a particular asset. For a particular asset now, creating the digital thread that runs through all of these different areas from concept engineering. So now assets are not seen as a project that is one and done. So an EPC will say, I've made this project for you. There you go. It's now not like that. It's now everyone is about the entire life cycle of the asset. Now for big asset owners like in Indonesia, the big asset owners that look over many projects, the AI prize is even much bigger than that. And the way that I like to talk about it is, if you look at these assets and these projects, to be honest, rarely are any projects unique. I've talked to major EPCs that have built many, for example, FPSOs, floating processing, storage, offloading assets. And actually, they're all kind of the same. So if you look at these assets, there's rarely anything new. But people tend to think they're new, and this is what's called uniqueness bias. If you're joining a project, then if you're a new team, if you don't know about this project, if you don't have experience, you tend to think it's new. But for that engineering FPSO example, they've done so many in the past, but actually they never kept data from previous projects. They don't have data from live operating assets. When they complete a project, all that data is sent. It's not used. I call it's sent to the data graveyard. Now imagine that you are a portfolio owner looking after many different assets. Each of these assets follows a similar approach. It might be, earlier you might do a hazard analysis, or you're following a stage gate approach. The reality is they're all more or less the same. So what AI can do now is AI then can actually look at all of these assets and all of these projects and start to say, look, oh, your stage gate, you're ready, you've completed correctly. Or no, for this hazard analysis, what we've learned from other projects is you should think about this. So agentic AI for the asset owners is radically changing the game. And it's a wonderful opportunity for asset owners who own big portfolios to to really improve delivery. So here's another example about AI. It's so if you're working through projects and if you find that people are preparing reports, that whole world of creating dashboards, reports is kind of moving away now. So what you have now is AI agents that are helping leadership read through all those projects, read through everything, and then come up with recommendations. So there are some organizations which have actually completely eliminated routine reporting. Leaders now have agents which help them go through massive amounts of data and think through what to do next. So it could be like an assurance agent. So let's say that you're a big project and you're coming to the next stage gate review, and that stage gate, so you're looking at many projects, you're the asset owner, maybe you don't have the engineering depth to challenge APCs, but then the agent will be able to say, yes, so you did your business case, but maybe you've missed that, or you've done this analysis, you've missed that. So the agents give incredible power to looking at this. Or things like fatal flaws. So a fatal flaw is an issue which is kind of a deal breaker for a project. So it can be between many interfaces. Fatal flaws are common. So having AI monitor that, interface agents, decision agents. Need to be careful of time. I'm gonna quick going through. And of course, I know, of course, that Indonesia is very ambitious now with AI, and it is a new operating system, and it is a new frontier. And AI is not, it's not an IT thing. So if you're looking to IT department to say make AI work, you've kind of missed how this whole new thing works. So AI is embedded with everyone now. So it's just moving too quickly for one centralized department to lock in scope and fix it. Let me quickly just, when I talk about speed to value for major asset owners and organizations, there's different components, fast decision cycles, modular by design, powered teams. These kind of 6 building blocks that if you really wanted to have your assets deliver value, you should consider quickly. Just a quick note, whenever I talk about this outcome-driven approach, contracting comes up as an issue. So when you have a big asset and you contract to an EPC, it's usually lowest price, fixed scope, lump sum turnkey. It's irresistible, right? It's like, oh my God, they're so cheap, and it's like, but actually, and we all kind of know that is challenged, and aerospace has known for many years, defense and aerospace. So instead of fixed price, fixed scope, what's emerging, or what other industries have done, is fixed price, variable scope. So when you go to an EPC, you'll say, look, I want to build a mine or refinery system. Give me something in 6 months that works. So in 6 months' time, they have to demonstrate value. Then based on that, you might say, all right, we might need to change scope because the power generation systems might be different, or so fixed price variable scope is is the outcome-driven approach, and it's not new. It's in defense. It's standard. I'll jump a little bit about if you're an organization, an asset owner, how do you do this? I'm happy to chat offline, but you know, this idea of it is a new concept. How do we go about creating something different? How do we do this? Actually implement this? And I'll talk. So my advice is always you know, you think big about these new ideas or these new assets. You start small and you learn fast. And learn fast is important because it means that we recognize that things are moving so quickly. You can't predict the future, and you have to learn and adapt to what's actually delivering value. So think big, start small, learn fast. Yeah, so I'm going to get a question soon. So I went through a lot here, and I went through really quickly the slides. So apologies if I went too quickly. But I'm always happy to chat. So like, if you want me to talk about, you know, like talk to executives, create an outcome-driven workshop, maybe help with a project, or talk about your AI strategy for your portfolio, I'm always happy to do so. If you're interested, I've also written a book on the subject, and you can check it there. But more importantly, let me get to questions and discussions. So so let me open it up now. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Edward. One point that I can conclude is, yeah, that's really interesting that change is inevitable, even in complex projects. So we need to rethink it. Start with small, learning fast. That way my engineering advance in the earlier phase, so with outcome-driven approach, we can reach value much sooner. Thank you. So we now open the floor for our Q&A session. If you have any question, please type in the chat box, or use the raise hand feature to ask question directly. If in the room have any question, you may ask for Mr. Edward. If any question in this room, yeah. So, Mr. Professor Muhammad Abdul.
Yeah, I will start, Edward. I think your topic is very new for us. Yeah. Actually, I am working also with AI, and it is amazing the way the AI help us very faster and change the multiple step. I just give them the specification and how they have to do that, and they just do it in very fast. So I think the issue is where they get the data from. Okay, since you talk about how to build like an asset that is maybe you already developed before. You mentioned about the EPC project, for instance, or already developed, for instance, like Pertamina already set up a lot of plans, for instance, but they don't have the production, the performance, and also the facility information in digital form. I think AI will not learn from that and will not help. So I think there is like a enabler. I think the digitalization is like is a must for this to work. I don't know your comment on it.
So actually, no one has all the data, right? No one is managing the data well, and what you're describing is normal. But I guess the point is that if you are now a team, and you now need to think about the data. So how do we take that data? How do we use it to deliver outcomes faster? So to me, it's all about outcome delivery first. So if I'm an asset owner, within 6 months, I want my asset to be delivering value. Is there something which the AI can help me achieve that? The team needs to then be very familiar with AI, be very familiar with data, and what's really important is be very familiar with the governance of that data. So I'm sorry, you cannot put your sensitive project data into ChatGPT because the world's going to see it, right? So if you set up the teams and the governance correctly, you can accelerate these projects. But it is a new way of working, and when I talk about a new way of working, imagine that like with me, like I have a team and we develop like AI agents for stage gate reviews. Well, part of my team is an AI agent. So every morning, so I'll wake up, I'll start to have coffee, and the agent will chat to me, "Hey, how's it going? I've been thinking about this. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking about this." So actually, agents are now actually part of the team. And I'll only let that agent do something useful or do something which is significant when I trust it. So I really have to trust. And for these mega projects, we've got to be really, really sure that your data is safe and secure. But that's not that hard, actually. It's not that hard. And for the first time in my career, actually, the technology's the easy part. You can now have AI do things for you very quickly. What's more difficult is, how do we help people use this? Professor Abda, I hope that helps the answer.
Thank you, Professor Mo. Another in this room would like to raise a question. If there is not, we will move to the Zoom chat. Yeah. So in the Zoom chat, we have a question from Krishna Suryanto Pribadi. She asks about my understanding of outcome-driven approach is that capital project should be developed in incremental ways, which produce value as soon as possible, expanded in modular and replicable process until the ultimate outcome achieved. So
that's great. So yeah.
Yeah. How this approach can be implemented in the government highly political project successfully?
Okay. So
question number 2. Yeah.
So let me ask the question. So let's take nuclear power plants. So nuclear power is about as complex and as challenging a mega project as you'll get. Historically, there's been huge problems with nuclear power plants, like the example of Monju in Japan, which was a nuclear power plant they spent $10 billion on, but never got it operational. They actually spent $10 billion and never sold 1 watt of energy. And the reason is because that is a mega project where they tried to plan everything in advance. They build a massive asset. The traditional approach. So an outcome-driven approach would be, okay, so how do I build something smaller, test it first, and see, is this working? How do I build? Well, actually, the world is finally waking up to this. So if you look at the new Rolls-Royce and Hitachi small modular nuclear reactors, they're actually building nuclear reactors in factories now, and they're small. I think like 300 megawatts or 400 megawatts, and you build them like Lego blocks. So you build a small one. Is this working? Can the power grid handle it? Yes, it can. Well, then we can expand. That's a great example of the difference between sort of a traditional mega project, create a massive gigawatt asset, versus a small modular approach was, well, let me just test this and we'll add bits to it. So so I hope that answers the question. We're starting to see it in projects all over the place, modularization and outcome-driven approach.
Mr. Number 3 from Imam Dwi Cahya. So, yeah, Krishna Sucianto. So, is China approach to provide AI as a public infrastructure rather than protected business investment can be implemented in Indonesia, and how?
So China's approach to provide AI as a public infrastructure rather than so we've jumped from mega projects, right, which are like building refineries, building factories, building like mine to battery assets to AI as a strategy now. I think countries need to be AI independent and secure their own systems. I believe that the AI is so powerful that I think AI independence is critical. So what does that mean for Indonesia? It means power. You need to have the power to do these things. You need the data centers. Actually, the algorithms, of course, what the frontier labs are doing is I think what the world is moving to is independence, like AI independence. I hope that answers the question, Krishna, because it's kind of a challenging geopolitical question at the moment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Edward. I hope that answer your question, Mr. Krishna Suryanto. Let's move on to the question number 4. So the question is, the perspective presented in this slide is quite interesting. So since most of us at IAMKRI are contractors, is it still valid to define factory complete as our value while supporting the owner's outcome of cars sold? So what can contractor do to broaden their perspective and contribute to this greater value? From Muhammad Abdi Ghazali.
So that's a very interesting question, and I think the point is that as a contractor, ultimately you do what the asset owners want. So if the asset owners say build this factory, then you build a factory. That's fine. And if the asset owners say, well, no, demonstrate me value in 6 months, then you do that. And I think the point of this conversation, and I think Mohammed has invited many asset owners to this, is that ultimately the asset owners need to think this way. So if they go to a contractor and say, okay, so instead of building me this massive factory first, why don't you build me part of it first, and let's test it. Let's see if it works. Or instead of building me like a massive smelter for whatever product, build me a small one first, so we can test the power requirements, so we can test the logistics. Ultimately, the contractors and do what is asked by the asset owner. But the contractor should be also smart about this and start to say, well, we need to get faster and more adaptive and use data later, so we can execute better. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Edward. Now we move on the next question. So the question number 5 is from Yolan Unlam. At the project level, how can AI-generated design data be integrated into last planner system to improve workflow reliability and reduce rework? And how can contractors help owners understand and support this approach?
Yeah. So I think now AI and Mass Planner is well. I think there's a lot already happening now. So there's plenty of organizations now which are looking at, schedule using data like historically from many thousands of projects. So what you've just described is how to use AI in Last Planner. That's probably something you could set up and have running in a week or two and try it. So if someone came to me and had that question, I would say, okay, let's do it. Let's try and figure out. And in a week, let's have something up and running. And if it's helping, then we expand. If it doesn't help, that we don't do it. And when I talk about AI and do it in a week or so, that's completely possible. The AI systems are so advanced now. What you've just described, you could have up and running really quickly. And if it didn't work, if the only thing I would say is specify the outcome you want in advance. Be really clear, how is this going to deliver me value? And then you can actually talk to the AI systems and say, I want to do this, I want to use Last Planner, and I want to do this, and it will build you something. And then you execute and run. Actually, that sounds like a cool experiment. Maybe we could do it together. Happy to try. Next question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Edward. For the next question is how from Mr. Punjung Satyabrata, how would incremental value delivery work in a tightly integrated process engineering? Projects such as urea plant designed to produce around 3,500 tons of urea per day. So since this process is utilities, offsite safety system, and commissioning must function as an integrated whole before the sellable urea can be produced. So what meaningful diverse value could actually be delivered incrementally? It means that those does start small, learn fast, therefore apply mainly to design validation, procurement, construction, sequencing, and system-by-system commissioning, rather than to incremental commercial production.
That's a great question. So imagine that I'm building this plant. So I guess my first question would be, what are the fatal flaws? So what are the things that if you didn't have, the plant won't work? So for example, power, right? So if you don't have power, or if you don't have logistics or roads, so the outcome of a different approach might be very simple to say, deliver me this much product or this much, demonstrate that it works. Because what you'll find with these tightly integrated processes is that there'll be a different group working on the plant, there'll be a different group working on the infrastructure, there'll be a different group working on the power. And actually, you've introduced an enormous amount of dependencies and complexities. An outcome-driven approach would be my simple, very saying is like, just deliver me some smaller volumes and we'll produce to test. Test, do the logistics work. Test, do I have stable power? Because if you don't have stable power, then your system's shut down. Again, think about the outcome. The end of all of this is the same, right? It's a project that's delivering you 3,500 tons per day. But how do you move in a smaller step-by-step fashion, such that when you you don't want to then build a refinery, for example, which is 100% complete and have no ability to provide it assets or ores. So what an outcome-driven approach is forcing a very tightly integrated process to demonstrate its functioning. And for these big projects, what often happens is it's a very simple interface issue. One thing couldn't deliver. I built this thing and there's no power. I built this thing and this is not there. So like if you look at this, your question is like you're saying, I want to create something designed to build 3,500 tons per day. So you've set that as you're going to engineer to that. are you sure you can engineer smaller steps to lead to that? Most EPCs, most engineering companies who will build per day and like lump sums, they want to engineer the whole asset. And they're not challenged to think about, well, what are small steps? Demonstrate me the value. Because it might be as simple as like a permit. You might not have the permit for that area. So if you're going to build an asset and there's no permit, then there's no point, right? You can't run it. So I think it's actually a much easier and simpler idea. You want to build something big, just do stuff in smaller steps that shows it's feasible. Thank you. Next question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Edward. For the next question
Scrum.
from Professor Muhammad Abduh, would like, yeah, I can. So, Edward, how does Scrum way of thinking relate to your new approach?
Well, that's a fascinating question. So how do I say this? Yeah, so I'm a huge fan of Agile, and if you look at my book, Jeff Sutherland wrote the foreword, and Jeff Sutherland actually invented Scrum, right? So he's the originator of Scrum and Agile. And for many of the big complex projects, if you look at how work is done, so like a structural engineer might do a piece of work, pass it to the next engineer, electrical engineer, and passes the next work. The work is very functional and siloed. And when you move between these different functions and silos, actually you're creating waste, because you're creating waiting between different. So at its very core is Scrum is saying, let's get everyone to sit together and look at the same thing and decide on the spot. So if you use Scrum and integrate that, well, literally. So with this recent project that I've been working on, it took us 133 days to go from a concept to issuing a purchase order. So from initial engineering concept to issuing a purchase order. And that 133 days, which is about 6 calendar months, was it moving between different functional silos for approval. What Scrum would say is, actually just sit together and like work it out in one shot. So you would take that 133 days, I think you would slash it to maybe 30 days, 40 days. So the Scrum idea of tightly integrated teams is incredibly powerful. Having said that, Scrum has evolved now, and the way things are working it's the same Scrum concepts, but you'll find that they may not have product owners, they may not have Scrum masters. Tightly integrated teams are working in very different ways. So Agile, absolutely. Scrum, you need to tailor it carefully. Yeah, I hope that helps. Next question.
Thank you, Mr. Edward. And then we move to the next question from Rizky Putri Tantika. So in a regulated project, owner may have limited flexibility to adopt variable scope or outcome-based contract. So how can outcome-aligned contracting be applied while staying complying with procurement regulation and also maintaining the accountability?
Yeah, so I think most projects are highly regulated. And actually if you look historically at the traditional project delivery frameworks, in the whole front-end loading concept, the whole front-end loading concept was, very early, think about what permits are required, get the permitting right and regulations right. So of course we must always comply with regulation. And I think actually what variable scope does is it actually helps it, because if you can demonstrate a smaller scope quickly, or you then can go ask the regulators, I'm going to build this small scope first, and is it in compliance, then you'll get feedback quickly. So of course, we work very tightly with the regulators, and the regulators might say, well, no, so this doesn't work. You need to change that. So then you adapt. So I think you're right. Currently, the way these projects are developed, so again, let's imagine I'm building a massive mine to, refinery project. There's many different regulations, many different permits involved. And if you try to engineer the entire thing, this massive thing at once, you're for sure you're going to have issues. But then if you work with the regulators and maybe the local communities in the area, or you do something smaller and you do something more iterative, actually reduces risk. So what I would say to this question is that the current project delivery framework is actually the risk is increasing over time because you don't know the regulations, you don't know the impact. And an outcome-driven approach is probably the only way to actually reduce that risk and to change. So remember that curve, outcome reduces risk. Traditional project increases risk because over time, you just can't predict what's going to happen. The next question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Edward. I think the time is up. We have to answer the question after the webinar if you may interested. And thank you again. Thank you for such a comprehensive and insightful presentation of Rethinking Capital Project Delivery. So thank you everyone for your thoughts and questions, and thank you Mr. Edward Abramowich for addressing them so thoroughly. Thank you very much. Giving an applause to Mr. Edward Abramowich. Thank you. Okay, next, now it's time for the moment you'll be waiting for the selection of 2 lucky participants who will receive an exclusive IAMKRI merchandise. All right, so to make it fair and exciting, so we will use a spin wheel to randomly select the winner from today's list of questions. So are you ready? So let's see who is the lucky one will be. So we can start the spin. And the winner is Mr. Aminullah. Congratulations. Congratulations. And we have second lucky participant. To Rizky Putri Santika from UNJ. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. So as we come to the end of today's session, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to our speaker, Mr. Edward Abramowich, for sharing his invaluable expertise and rethinking capital project delivery, and to Professor Muhammad Abdu and Mr. Rian for opening this event with insightful remarks, and also for PT Wijaya Karya Persero as the webinar host for support and providing the opportunity to share knowledge on lean construction. So before we close this webinar, we would like to invite Professor Muhammad Abdu, Mr. Edward Abramowich to deliver their closing statement. Well, Professor Muhammad Abdu?
Edward first.
Oh yeah, maybe Mr. Edward first will be.
Thank you so much for the wonderful opportunity, and I really enjoyed the conversation, and I'm very excited, with this big participation, so many people, and so much opportunity to help improve Indonesia's capital project goals and delivery. And I feel very honored for the opportunity to speak. And I hope people found that useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Edward Abramowich.
Okay, so thank you, Edward, for sharing valuable insight from your side to us. I think this is new for us. So I think we have to learn from you more than this webinar. I would like also to thank to PT Wika as the host of this webinar, you very much. And also, I would like to mention something regarding our upcoming event. I'm pleased to share that we already officially scheduled our annual seminar this year. It will be on the 5th and the 6th of October 2026, and will be held in Utama Karya Tower in Jakarta in collaboration with the Association of Indonesian Contractors, or AKI, Asosiasi Kontraktor Indonesia. So we also would like to mention that we are honored that Glenn Ballard will come to Indonesia, Edward. So I think he is one of the founders of the Lean Construction Institute, and also the developer of the last planner system, and also target value delivery. I think we will have a very enjoyable discussion with him on October. So I would like to invite all the members and also other participants. Right now we have also participants from the owners, clients. I think we would like to invite you to our annual seminars. And the organizing committee will be chaired by one of our members, Pak Ahmad Solihan from Adikarya. So we would like to support him. So I think everybody welcome to join the organizing committee to support him. And we would also still hold some event such as the competition, the K2R, and also the academic forum. And we would like also to invite our colleague from India, which Ganesh, Mr. Ganesh, to do some workshop for us, Lean Construction workshop. And also we would like to invite all the practitioners and also academia who can share their own experience in implementing Lean in their maybe university or maybe in their projects. So we call it berbagi kerampingan. So we would like to have your participants in our upcoming seminar. So I hope also right now some of the we invite actually some officer from government agency, and also state-owned enterprises, and also private developers, and also project owners. We would like also to collaborate with you. Maybe we can set up another time. We can discuss about how we can deliver the project, and also how you all can get the value from the project using our what's called the Lean project delivery system. So I think Edward can help us in doing that. So once again, thank you, Edward, for your generously your time and also sharing your knowledge to us. We would like also have your book distributed to our members. I think it's free, Edward.
Yeah, I can arrange that.
Yes, I think. Thank you very much. So we look forward to see you again in the future IAMKRI program, Edward. And also for our members, we still keep learning and also collaborating, and still always think Lean and act Lean. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Muhammad Abduh, Mr. Edward Abramowich, and Mr. Yan, and all the participants of your time and active engagement in this webinar. We hopefully found today's discussion informative and inspiring. Stay tuned for the next IAMKRI webinar series as we continue to explore and expand possibility of Lean construction. Thank you, Mr. Edward. So we may have a group photo session. Yeah,
that's
thank
good.
you.
Mana? Okay, Edward, you stay on cam. Okay, so we'll have Okay, thank you, Edward. See you again later.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Itu sudah terlihat dari tahun 2019 dengan berbagai variasi dan dinamikanya. Untuk itu, pada 27 Maret 2020, para ahli konstruksi di Indonesia berkumpul dan mendirikan Ikatan Ahli Manajemen Konstruksi Ramping Indonesia atau IAMKRI dan dideklarasikan pada 5 September 2024 di Jakarta. Visi dan misi IAMKRI. Nilai dasar dan tujuan IAMKRI. Terdapat 6 bidang kerja pada IAMKRI, diantaranya adalah aktivitas yang dilakukan di IAMKRI, organisasi IAMKRI terdiri dari badan pengurus, badan pengawas, dewan pakar, dan juga para pendiri.